Hey, so I'm going to talk about the weirdest story, perhaps the weirdest gaming related story of the year. All right. This is an article by Grant Stoner, written published on IGN. The title might spoil things, but I also think it's a great hook. A prominent accessibility advocate worked with studios and inspired change, but she never actually existed. All right, so you might have some questions. So we talk sometimes about accessibility in games. Accessibility can mean a lot of things. It can mean color blindness options. It can mean subtitles, sound options. It can mean different methods for input, right? Street Fighter 6's modern mode, there's some people who have arthritis or something like that, and modern mode means that they can actually play the game without getting like pain within like 20 minutes, right? Accessibility, it's cool. It's generally a good thing. It's good that more games have moved towards that because it benefits people who have certain disabilities or whatever. And also, I'm just an options freak, and sometimes accessibility options are just good options to have in general. I remember back playing League of Legends, everyone played with certain accessibility settings on because it actually increased visibility on certain effects, like changing health bar colors and changing certain visual effects so they blended in less with the background. Like, it's I think it's very rare that an accessibility feature is like an active negative on the game. I can't really think of one. I don't know. People complain about like easy modes. I guess that's an accessibility setting, but or an accessibility feature. But also, like, you don't have to engage with it. Getting a little sidetracked. All I'm saying is accessibility is cool, and there are a certain number of people. So first of all, in order to really be an expert on accessibility, we're talking generally, kind of requires a specific interest and also skill set. A lot of people in our daily lives don't think about disabled people unless you have someone in your life or you yourself have some sort of disability. So it's just not something at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. It is not something that it's not a booming scene, right? Where everyone's trying to get into accessibility. And that's for, in general, that's for like, oh, I'm going to make a public space. I'm going to make this train station easier for a blind person to walk around in, something like that. When you get into a niche like video game accessibility, gets even more narrow of who's in there. So it's a pretty small world, and a lot of people in the gaming accessibility space, people who are advocates, who are experts, who are coordinators and all that, a lot of them know each other. And back in 2015, a certain person appeared on Twitter who went by the account One Odd Gamer Girl. Real name was Susan Banks, who was basically there to share the perspective. I'm going to be slightly quoting from the article and slightly summarizing. Share from the perspective of a deaf, Muslim, queer, disabled gamer nerd. So we got a couple things going on there, right? Now that is a lot of minority groups to belong to. Therefore, if you are someone who is in the accessibility scene, you can probably gain a lot of valuable insight from someone who is like deaf or belongs to a certain religion that's not a majority in like the United States, something like that, right? So this person, Susan Banks, would regularly post about basically all the things that she had to deal with, the way that it applied to gaming and certain challenges that she had, or maybe certain sensitivities that someone who doesn't belong to that group, just all that stuff. So she's got this whole backstory about being from Turkey, immigrating to Chicago, Susan Banks, and getting into video games, right? So lots of Let's say a hobbyist in the realm of accessibility, just kind of writing about their own experiences. Now, because this was such a specialized experience, she got some attention from places like Ubisoft. So she ended up getting a lot of interviews, writing a lot of articles on Medium, and making a bit of a name for herself in the accessibility space. This is in 2015, let's say late 2010s ish, right? Over the course of like a year or two. She was very active on social media. She had she would advise on several games and all that, and actually became fairly influential in terms of like there were features that she recommended and certain advice that she gave that, according to this article, did make it into games. Now, enter our second character, someone by the name of Coty Craven. I thought that was a weird name. C-O-T-Y, Craven, Coty Craven. Not Cody, Coty. And then I found out it's a trans guy, and I was like, oh, trans name. Okay. Fanfiction name. Okay. So Coty Craven meets Susan Banks. They meet by happenstance and eventually develop a romantic relationship with each other. This happens pretty quickly, right? That they start dating each other. All right, I'm going to read this paragraph word for word. Within months of Craven's introduction to Banks, Craven claimed Banks had been hospitalized after dropping a KitchenAid mixer on her foot, according to both an anonymous former business associate of Craven's I spoke to and my own past conversations with Craven. So I heard, like, she was hospitalized after dropping a mixer. And I thought, like, a mixer? Let me make sure I'm thinking of the right thing, because I think I am. And I looked up a picture, and yes, it is just a regular mixer, maybe the size of a little bigger than a coffee maker. So if you dropped a KitchenAid mixer on your foot, you might think, like, okay, well, at worst, probably broke some bones. Pretty unpleasant, pretty painful. But not the end of the world. Several hours later, her leg was allegedly amputated. And nearly 48 hours after the first operation, her other leg was amputated as well. She dropped it on both feet. What? Okay, so now when you hear that, you're like, what? What the fuck? What do you mean she dropped a mixer on her foot and had to get both legs cut off? So this anonymous person, who the author of the article contacted, heard about this. I don't know if they knew the full details, but they heard that Susan Banks had some kind of accident, was in the hospital, and apparently had to get something amputated. They think, oh my god, I am going to send her a gift. I'm going to send her a gift. So she contacts, or they contact, I don't know their gender. I don't know who they are. They contact the hospital that supposedly Susan went to, the West Suburban Medical Center in Oak Park, Illinois. And they say, hey, I'd like to send Susan Banks some flowers. I'd like to send her a gift. And they go, who? No, Susan Banks. She's in certain. She had this. She was in the hospital 3 days ago, and she's still in there. We don't have anyone. We've never heard of anyone like that. There's no one in our records. No one came in here named Susan Banks. No one came in here named Coty Craven. And they were like, what? That's weird. That's strange. So they start seeking some third-party opinions, because this was like quite a shock. This was really weird. And it starts to, you start to wonder, like, okay, so they say that Craven, so weirdly enough, once Banks and Craven entered into a relationship, Craven started posting a lot about his girlfriend and his and whenever she got sick and when she got better. And mind you, there were no pictures. There were no pictures of Banks besides like a profile picture. There were no pictures of her. She never appeared on video. She never did video interviews. And the thing is, that's not the weirdest thing in the world because she was supposedly deaf, right? It's not weird for a deaf person to prefer speaking or giving an interview over text, like email or DMs or something like that, right? So that wasn't seen as very strange. And for the most part, people just, who were aware of her just figured, oh, well, it's just they're deaf. Craven is not deaf, so he maybe does some representation for her and all that, and will communicate on her behalf and things of that sort. And every single time that he says, "Oh, Susan got better," is just showered in gifts and praise about what a good partner he is and all that. So this third party, this anonymous third party, thinks this is a little weird and a little, that triggers some alarm bells. So they hire a private investigator. I'll quote, "The goal of the investigation was to find concrete proof of Banks' existence. Several days later, the investigator returned with no information. No immigration record, address, employment record, marriage license, or birth certificate was found." They were supposed to be married, actually. It wasn't just the girlfriend. They were married. Banks, according to the investigator, was not a real person. IGN received the receipt of the investigation and can confirm the source was billed for these services. So, at that point, open and shut. You'd think, right? This is not a real-ass person. This is getting really fucking weird. But still, Banks continues to be a prominent figure online. In the space of accessibility and all that, still getting interviews, still advising on things, still contributing to organizations and associations and all of this stuff. And then suddenly in 2019, Craven announces that Banks had died. Shockingly, it was not known what she died of. It was not known exactly. Oh, sorry, hang on. Hang on, sorry, I was wrong. There are some details about her death. Craven claimed that Banks died while playing games from a stroke. So she had a stroke while playing video games. In another private text conversation with a different individual viewed by IGN, Craven claimed she died while streaming and that at least one other person had a clip of her death. So none of this exists, by the way. Just a spoiler. None of this exists. Susan Banks was not a real person. She did not die of a stroke. She did not die while streaming video games. There was not a person who clipped her death. This is all stuff that Cody Craven made up, assumedly for some sort of dramatic sympathy points. No obituary was uncovered for a person fitting the description of Susan Banks in Oak Park, Illinois. Absolutely absurd. Dude, she had an award named after her. In 2019, after her death, there was an award by what was the specific organization? I believe it was Can I Play That, which is a gaming accessibility for disabled people thing, right? They named the Susan Banks Advocacy Award, sponsored by Ubisoft. Ubisoft, by the way, who covered up the rapes of multiple female staff by their upper management to protect them from legal troubles. Remember when no one talked about that? Remember when everyone got mad remember when all those guys got really fucking baby rage mad about Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and you're like, hey, did you know that Ubisoft covered up real rapes that happened? And they're like, I don't care about that. I care about the black man in my beautiful Japan. I'm getting off track. Fucking Ubisoft. This section is titled Profiting from Alleged Lives. So, several weeks before Banks' death, Craven created a GoFundMe for the launch of Can I Play That, a website dedicated to reviewing games and analyzing the industry from an accessibility lens, which was announced on both their social media account and the one allegedly managed by Banks. After Craven announced that Banks had died, organizations like Able Gamers directly shared the GoFundMe campaign, encouraging others to donate in her memory. Oh, this is like going to hell level of shit. This is going to super hell level of absolute scumbaggery. Craven used the sympathy generated by Banks' death to push himself into the spotlight. For years, he continually posted on social media about her passing, her legacy, and her impact on the industry. These conversations continued through numerous recognition profiles about Craven. He even had the opportunity to publish stories about his experience with grief. Can you believe that? Can you believe that this guy is getting credit? Like, people are writing bios about him, and they're describing him with Susan Banks, the fake person that he made up, and then he writes an article about his grief. Oh my god, you deserve to get beat up. You deserve to get fucking beat up. I wasn't going to say that. Oh, okay, I'll say, okay, maybe Cody Craven deserves to get a little bit of maybe Cody Craven deserves to share their own experiences as a gamer in a wheelchair. That's all I'm saying. Let's go to afterwards. Now, all of this is absolutely insane, right? Fucking guy made up a fake Muslim, disabled, queer, deaf woman, gamer girl. Oh, my neck. I got some evil spirits out with that one. She says that she dies, does some elaborate roleplay that she dies, and then profits off of her death. Now, would you believe he did it again? Enter Tubi Hamid. So, anytime Craven would post on social media, both Banks and this Tubi Hamid person would comment on his posts. And there's a beautiful love story here about how after Banks' death, Craven and Hamid came together and realized that they had a special bond, and they bonded over the death of this fictional person. Now, Tubi Hamid is... Let's see, can we get a description of Hamid and their particular arsenal of identities? Well, also, I think a Muslim woman. I think they're also supposed to be a Muslim lady. Someone from Kate Sanchez, who is the co-founder of But Why Though, which is like a news website, recalls what it was like to interact with Hamid's account through private messages with Craven and other conversations. They said, I had interactions with Tubi quite a bit on Twitter, always around race and disability as well. I've been very vocal about the importance of including non-white people in the disability and accessibility space, and Tubi would often have the same views or echo them. Beyond Twitter, Craven would relay messages between me and Tubi, usually around race and disability. I want to add a little detail in here that I forgot. Cody Craven is white, so he is actually role-playing as like a Middle Eastern woman and being like, oh yeah, we got to have more non-white voices in games accessibility. In 2021, Can I Play That ran a story with Hamid's byline, published and edited by Craven, detailing her experience as a deaf person of color in the gaming industry. The story details her connection with Banks and even advertises Craven's work and business ventures. That year, her story was nominated for the Best Journalism Award by the Game Accessibility Conference. Throughout this time, Craven also acted as a dude, he fucking made a fake girlfriend and then gave his fake girlfriend an award. He was a judge. However, during this period, Hamid suddenly disappeared, deactivating her social media accounts and leaving the industry. Enter. Now, would you believe that he did it a third time? Enter Deb Vaughan? I don't know how that's pronounced. Craven's, reading from the article. Craven's alleged third partner was introduced to the public in 2023, once again on social media platforms like Twitter. Unlike Banks and Hamid, Deborah, or Deb, Vaughan, has no Twitter account of her own. Good idea. Instead, updating people through self-published stories on Medium, as well as anecdotes given by Craven. According to private conversations between myself and Craven, Vaughan was allegedly a close friend of Banks, and the two reconnected after Banks' death. Oh, sorry. Oh, I got them mixed up. So Tubi was just some kind of, some floozy. Just some floozy. Craven and Vaughan reconnected after Banks' death. Similar to Banks and Hamid, there are no pictures of Craven and Vaughan together. Instead, so there's no pictures of them. Instead, Craven just posts their cute little text conversations together that they have, and the profile picture that he has set for her is an edited stock photo. They have a link to the original stock photo. Vaughan was instrumental with the creation of Craven's latest venture, the Game Content Triggers Database, a source that volunteers and developers can use to display potentially triggering themes, scenes, or objects in games. Her presence in the industry is relatively isolated to her Medium page and activity within the database's Discord server. Like the previous two partners, stories about representation were crucial to Vaughan's work in the industry. According to Vaughan's introductory post within the Discord server, as well as an article published on the database by Craven, she is a registered therapist specializing in PTSD and trauma. Dude, why do you keep making these people who have things that you could easily look up? She has a, quote, long background in psychology and mental health and is also, quote, deaf, so I know a bit about ableism. Her posts extensively explore topics like mental health themes in games, racism, the disabled experience as a deaf person of color, and more recently, experiencing life while receiving intense cancer treatments for stage 3B colorectal cancer. Oh my god, you're going to triple hell, dude. Dude, you're going to like Mondo hell. Holy shit. Much like Banks and Hamid, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. I've just been saying Hamid. IGN was unable to find any individual who had seen her in person or on a video call. IGN was also unable to find a registered therapist by the name of Deborah Vaughan or Damaris Burl Vaughan fitting her description in Michigan, Illinois, or her supposed home state of Missouri. According to Sanchez, Vaughan's presence in the industry is intrinsically tied to her race. This is beyond the pale. This is like I knew specifically that Coty had messaged me asking for non-white people to be involved because per Coty's words, it was only white people who volunteered their time. There's a lot of layers going on here. I wanted to provide the depth and exploration, at least for my identity, which is Latina. I only found out that Coty had a partner named Deb after I joined the database and tried having conversations about race there. Coty had messaged me that Deb was his new partner and was going to be central in diversifying who was contributing to the database. Craven claims he was in talks to sell the database to companies like Amazon based on messages between Kate Sanchez and Craven. No further conversations about an acquisition occurred after that message. Amazon declined to comment. So his fucking big business plan was to invent fake black women to roleplay as, to make up real, like, lived experiences of being, like, disabled and black and shit. Faking being a doctor and a licensed therapist. And then use that to grow the profile of the database that he created so that he could sell it to Amazon as a business venture. Brother, what happened to you? What? Were you always like this? Just absolutely crazy. Just insane. There's some other stories about how, like, this fake Vaughan person, who we all know is fake, like, let's go to she's fake. It's a fake person. Everyone knows that at this point. Wrote an article that ended up about, like, Spider-Man 2, the Insomniac game that got the attention of one of the developers, and just like getting actual industry attention, and just, Despite not having a social media account like Craven's previous partners, Vaughan's alleged life and family drew the attention of thousands throughout Craven's social media account. Okay, dude, this is so fucked up. So would you believe that he did it a fourth time? Enter Bess, Vaughan's mother. Craven is not dating Bess. However, Vaughan's mother is supposedly a 96-year-old woman who fell in love with gaming in her late 90s and started playing Breath of the Wild, and everyone's like, "Aw, epic wholesome Reddit moment." Bess passed away on Monday evening, peacefully in her sleep at 97. So it feels appropriate to share this essay about her love of Breath of the Wild again. Spend some time sharing games with someone you love this week. This happened a couple months. This was about 8 months after that post. After Bess was introduced to the world. Vaughan's introductory interview, published by Craven on the database website, explicitly mentions Craven's relationship with Bess, citing it as integral to the founding of the site. IGN was unable to find an obituary for a woman fitting the description of Bess in Missouri during the alleged time of her death. Vaughan's mentions on Craven's social media and activity within the database Discord have largely ceased since March. Her last message to the server noted that both her and Craven were incredibly busy with work and had not abandoned the project. However, their involvement with the database has yet to be seen. As of June, she was still active on her Medium page, publishing an article exploring EMDR therapy. Yeah. So, now you might assume, I believe Craven, since this article was posted, has basically nuked everything that he's ever done and gone private on everything and closed the Discord and I think even the website might be down at this point. Holy shit. What a fucking bizarre story. What a weird story. I was shocked that no one was talking about this. Probably because regular gamers, like, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot harder to rage bait about a situation like this than, I don't know. So there's a black guy in Assassin's Creed? What? Oh my god, I care so much about this. I'm gonna sign a petition. I'm gonna sign a petition about this. And it's like, bro, there was a fucking guy. There was a white guy who pretended to be two Muslim women and one whole black woman who were, like, disabled and gay and shit. And he just did that for, like, almost 10 years. The Susan Banks account started in 2015. He did that for 10 years. In order to basically con the gaming accessibility space, who, like, have to be like the most well-meaning people in the world. Like, I'm sure it's not a job that pays. It's all like it's all volunteer work. It's just for people who want, like, disabled people to have a better time playing video games. Infiltrate them and dupe them into believing his all his shit. Fucking faked that one of them had died. That 2 different women. I forgot he made 4 women. He made 4 women. Also, just there is something so weird going on there with the race thing. I don't know exactly how to approach that, but the whole, like, white guy pretending to be black women and Muslim women and Middle Eastern, like, it's so weird. It's really weird. And the fact that they're all like that is so, I don't know, dude. There's a real master manipulator. I love how Kendrick, you can tell that he, like, recorded all those songs in the same session, because he says he's got really into the way that he always pronounces it, master manipulator. He always pronounces it the same way. That's it's so crazy, because I'm sure if you're working in this field, you probably don't expect this, You probably don't expect that someone so vile could be lurking in there, or that they could be doing any of this. Like, not if it was me, not in my wildest dreams would I ever have predicted that, right? Like, you never see that shit in volunteer work, and then you hear about how he's gonna sell the website, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, you're just a scumbag. And I don't know, it's like, it really calls into question. I mean, this was someone who was giving real developers advice, like sensitivity stuff, like how do we depict different cultures that we might not be very knowledgeable on in a way that isn't, like, accidentally really ignorant. And he's just a white guy. He's just pretending. That's crazy. Do you think anything made it, like, into a game or something? I can't imagine sitting down and writing all of these fucking articles that he wrote. Like, the idea of, like, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which I guess he was very good at, but, like, putting myself in his shoes, like, oh my god. Holy shit, he should have been a ghostwriter. Absolutely beyond the pale. One of the strangest stories I have read in a while. And what lessons can we take from this? I don't even know. Besides what the fuck? I doubt anyone will ever, like, in the history of time, ever go to these lengths again. I don't think this is going to become an endemic, like an epidemic thing in the gaming accessibility space. I don't think people are going to have to be on the lookout for that. But it does kind of suck that this is such a massive, ridiculous betrayal. If I belonged to any of those groups that this fucking guy wrote these articles about under these identities, and I read an article that, like, really touched me, and then I found out that it was fake, I don't know how I'd feel. I'd be whacked out at the very least. Just strange. One of the weirdest long cons I've ever seen. How did he think he could keep getting away with it? I guess because no one mentioned. I guess because he really just took advantage of people being good-natured. Which is, like, maybe one of the most despicable parts of it. Is that's the only way it could have worked. Right? Like, I remember in... What game was it? Was it Overwatch? Was it League of Legends? There was some, like, e-sport where some team announced that they were signing a player who was, it was a girl, some female player who were pretty rare as far as those games, as far as professional esports goes. And what was weird about it was that it was a weird situation because they announced that, like, it was okay. So it's like this girl and they're signing her, and the situation was really strange because there was like no intro video that they would usually do, that the org would usually do. There was no bio. There were no pictures of this person. They would only be playing online. And it, like, the history of their ranked account was really strange. And so you get that, and then you get the mixed, like, the weird, like, there's a weird, like, gender dynamic thing with gamers, right? Capital G gamers. So there's like it was a weird situation, and it was even weirder because she ended up being fake. It was actually a guy who was, I think, had been banned or something. Maybe I should research this before I talk about it. But it was a guy who was either banned or for some, I don't know why, decided to get back into playing professionally under a fake name and identity. And I don't know, maybe he thought that, like, pretending to be a girl would make people less suspicious. But there were so many context clues that raised people's question mark flags that they ended up investigating it and exposing it. What a strange situation. What a weird case. Anyway, that's the story of Susan Banks and Coty Craven. What did someone say? I forget what the term is, but it's like when someone's name, when someone lives up to their name, because Craven means cowardly, and Coty Craven is certainly a coward.